All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Okay, so it's not as simple as what Charlie Kirk and all those people are leading you to believe. And it wasn't as simple in 2018, 19, 20. They led you astray. Biden won. I'm just telling you, Biden won. It probably wasn't by as much as what you saw, but then again, I don't know. I mean, Trump supporters could cheat too. Again, the world's crazy. Right. But again, it was probably less. But he did win. Because it's the same system you use to win generally. And they made the same, and Biden made the same ideological mistakes that Trump made. Right. Although, COVID was part of it. Well, they associated the misery of COVID with Trump. And then Trump kind of flipped the script when he ran. Right. These are psychological elections. That's what's going on. Well, because you have a bunch of farmers that are pissed off right now. They don't even want to deal with what do they call them? Snowflake. They don't want to deal with Snowflake. They'd rather have a Mexican or a Guatemalan. Right. And you're going to get Snowflake. It's the same bullshit you bought into. And next thing you're going to tell us that disabled people aren't disabled. I know where you're going with it. God will smite you dead. Some of your people dead, and it will smite your system if you start that shit again. I'm just telling you. I warned you about it in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And that's God. Don't let some bullshit deep stater that's now your buddy because they bought in tell you that I'm talking about violence. Or physical violence. So don't you find it weird that the last go round of what this thing is everything that I didn't say? Anything I said is not in that. Right. You see what they're doing? Could be a spell in Satan's stance, but it's still them. So again, remember, we're fighting, as I've been telling you for years, the $10 tomato. Well, if MAGA votes you in, the farmers will vote you out. I mean, what do you I don't know if it's all a MAGA. To simply explain to them, hey, look, you grew up on tomatoes that your parents could afford, lettuce that your family could afford, cucumbers that your family could afford. Why? Because these people were growing the stuff. What you're wanting to do is raise the prices on everything. Or maybe they're just stupid. They probably don't even know. Can't even think of it. So, they go, oh, well, at least President Trump's in office. $10 tomato is not that big of a sacrifice. I'm telling you the truth. There ain't nobody that's going to leave their support. Now, I'm one of the few people to leave my support network, but nobody's going to leave their support network in some city somewhere just so they can go to Iowa. I don't even think they give them. Do they give them medical insurance? I don't even know if they give them medical insurance. Right. Going to go in the middle of Iowa with no support network to make those measly immigrant wages. Because it's not going to happen that way. They're going to raise the price. Well, right, wages will go up. And then inflation goes up. So what do you think is going to happen? They're going to order, it's going to be cheaper to get vegetables from South and Central America where all the deported people work. Right. And then what's going to happen? You're going to do a tariff. And then what's going to happen? A $10 tomato. See? May not be 10, but it'll be a lot more expensive. Higher wages, where Biden gave us tremendous wages, but it didn't go as far, right? I'll tell you what, there's no president in history, I think, that raised wages higher than Biden. But it didn't amount to nothing. Inflation was higher than the wages. But I don't think it was all by that much. It was just the whole egg thing, I think, that made it look lopsided. Right. This is the truth. So it's like the whole idea of, I told you don't even go near street gangs and all that nonsense about a prayer meeting and they're disrupting our prayer meeting. It's just plain old gang warfare. Meeting in the streets to beat each other up. Told you to stay away from it, and that gave you January 6th. And law enforcement officers died and were injured. But now they're not law enforcement. Why? Because it doesn't suit you. It doesn't suit the psychological effort. Well, you got to get back to reality because you're going down that same road. Well, quite frankly, the American public will change out the party in power, but they can't afford to. So we're trying to get the party in power to wake up before it commits hara-kiri and kills itself. I don't think Musk can do much of anything. I don't think you're going to buy into his BS. Really, I don't think they will. Because he had RFK Jr. out there. He's just another RFK Jr. And now they're going, it's that old story. Get me once, shame on you. Get me twice, shame on me. It's not going to be shame on me. I'm not going to fall for that. Right. You're being manipulated by spy operators that you think you're controlling. They're deep state. You're being manipulated by the deep state wherever it's hidden. Or maybe right in front of you and you don't know about it. Because they happen to say MAGA or something like that. Well, you just went back and forth. The farmer's got to be livid. You said you're not going to deport him. Yay! Situation normal. We'll make it. Then you put it in snafu. Right. And then you can probably, okay, we'll work with them. And then no. It isn't outright amnesty. It's just a simple work visa. I don't by any stretch of imagination believe you're going to give them citizenship. Or even a resident card. You're going to give them a work visa. It's that simple. That's not amnesty. That's okay. You're here to work. Be taken away at any moment. Or it could be renewed. Well, you better wake up to the fact that this has been going on for a century. This is not something that Obama created. Right. In fact, there isn't a Republican that hasn't benefited from immigrant labor. Now, I understand the issue that's going on, and we're living in a different world than we used to. But this cut your nose off to spite your face is insane. I believe on Medicaid, you got people selling drugs. You got people, because this is what I told you to focus on, get rid of those people. But I guess you did it somehow. But you got people selling drugs. You got people that are actually, can actually work somewhere. And Like, I was a good guy, and I made sure I didn't use up the VA because I had my own insurance, you know. I should have used the VA. I just figured out I'd been better off if I used VA. They would have took care of me better than what was going on because the deep state kept interrupting my health care. And then there would have been all those records of all that craziness I was going through with all that Desert Storm kind of illness, Persian Gulf illness stuff, and it would have been in the records instead of me trying to get it all together. Which is half the reason why they're doing all this crazy stuff around me. So I can't get back to my VA case. Believe me, there's hundreds and hundreds of people cursing me. Oh, why? But why would we do that? Because you're devils and criminals. And you hate the truth. And you hate good cops. Plain and simple. They know what they're doing, all of you. It's a psyop to sexualize and to run me out of the church. Oh, yeah, she was running them out of the church. Okay, yeah, run a synagogue and Ben Elohim out of church. Try to make him gay, trying to make him all this other stuff. Keep doing it. You solidifying yourselves in hell for thousands and thousands of years. It's your system, all of you, believe me. It's not God's system, hell. They've judged themselves to hell by what they're doing to everyone else on this planet. Really what's happening. All right, so it's so simple, but again, like the county judge's words are very important. They weren't going to evacuate for nothing because they just don't do it. It's just like it's a hardy place where people, you know, went through that. Like right here, woo! What do you want to do? Let's go outside and have a picnic. Well, it says you're going to tornado. No, don't worry. It does that all the time. Go and have a picnic. So again, it's the same mentality. I've seen it in every tornado community I've lived in. Nobody really cares. So I think I got to look at. I got to look at the Oklahoma tornado and figure out how they missed that and how they, you know, all that kind of stuff. Right? Shouldn't even went to school that day, I guess. I have to look at the time of it all. But again, the reality of this thing is it was nighttime. I mean, they're not looking at the river. It's dark outside. So that's really, it's like what I call the perfect storm. But what you should do is at night, if the siren goes off, we hear it, somebody's going to hear it. So they said, I guess in Lenexa, it's not for you to hear when you're in your house. So that led me to say, well, then we need an app. But I would still do that because if one person hears it, you know, it could be on his back porch drinking beer, the flood alarm. And then he runs to all the other houses and wakes them up. Because usually I think there are like individual homes, but I think some of those places that got hit real hard look like they're, you know, like a trailer park and stuff like that. So all you need is like one good Samaritan to hear it, and then they'll wake everybody up, and then everybody will wake everybody up, and they'll get out of the way. So again, you're going to build a system, and that's never going to happen again. Or God will strike you dead for being so stupid. Right. I'm sure you will. So again, you put those, we'll fund those alarms somehow. And then everybody's required to have an evacuation plan that's run in some sort of camp or RV place. And then, of course, your regular residents, you'll touch base with them, and you'll send people around like a census type of thing. But you're going to go around and discuss. You'll have things online. You'll go visit, knock on doors. You touch base with everybody that lives there, and let them know what the plan is, and explain to them that they need a plan. And you've identified for their community, this is the high ground over here. At some point, we want to get a building in over there. I mean, even if it's just like a lean-to or something, right? Or something, you got to do it so you can have protection from the rain. But correct. So again, it's just kind of the perfect storm. If it wasn't nighttime, if that flood hit at 12 noon, that wouldn't have happened. face that part of it too. Well, that's why they don't evacuate, because they probably never happened like that. I mean, the other time it did hit it. Well, the reality is the last time they had trouble at a camp, I guess, or was it the last time, or the one in the 80s, right? Because there was other camps and stuff in different places that were having issues over the years. It was because they evacuated, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So the only way to get around it is to create that system of sensors, alarms, and shelters. In the big picture, it's not that expensive. Well, I mean, we do live. I mean, what's the date here? I didn't even think I was going to live this long. Because my dad died at 45. I was like, oh my God, it's almost a turn of the century. It's almost 20. Or was it 2000? I'm not going to live much longer after that. Because my dad, I figured everybody dies around 45. When I was a kid, you know. Right. I was 5 and my dad was 45, if I remember correctly. So we shouldn't have this problem ever again. Right? But there is the issue of people not paying attention to evacuation orders and the sirens. So you have to make it real. You have to make it, this is imminent. Get out of there, kind of thing. So again, the app is genius, and that's where you should go with it. I think even Kansas should adapt an app for the tornado siren system. You can opt out if you want, but essentially, it's how the message comes in. People don't always get it. I've picked up like what's it called, Amber Alerts, like hours later that I never saw. Right. So it should be an app that's really obnoxious, and they can set what sound they want and how loud. Right. But recommend that they keep it something that's going to wake them up. Right. And it's only for flooding, and again for tornadoes. So you have an app that screams at you until you wake up and read it. You can't turn it off with the button or anything like that. Right. So, of course, you're not going to do it for probably an Amber Alert, but you would do it for the tornado when it's imminent. Right. Like what they were looking at in Oklahoma. Just the time of day that this flood hit, that's pretty much really what sealed their fate. So they'd be like, oh my God, it's rising. Let's get out of here. All right. Yeah, I think I would have moved them to the hill. I mean, it's so simple. Right. You just have a sleep in, a sleep over, whatever it is. And they would all had fun, sing camp songs. They buy some pizzas. Right. Thanks, Larry. So again, you realize it's not only the Guadalupe River. There's other rivers and other places and other reasons to do this in Texas. So Texas needs to, it needs to be everywhere that it needs to be. And Houston had some issues before. So the system will work. I mean, Florida's about the one that does it the best, but but they got a lot of people got money. Oh, we're going to go on vacation up in Georgia or North Carolina. Sometimes you got to drive to South Carolina, North Carolina, because everything in Georgia is sold out if you wait too long. Right. And again, it was the camping season. When the camping season, they wouldn't even have been there, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Thanks, Larry. So yeah, I think Kansas should look into creating an app. Again, if they don't want to download it, I guess. But you should, and again, it's not going to alert them to every possible tornado. It's going to alert them when it's imminent. Right. Thanks, Larry. So no wonder it killed me. So I was like having an okay laugh in Oklahoma in Norman. I was like a stone's throw from the weather people. I don't know, they were further than that, but I was near the weather people, and all of a sudden I started looking at the weather maps and all that stuff in the middle of the storms with tornado sirens, and I told you that's when I saw it disappear. I saw the weather pattern change, and it disappeared over where we were because I was looking on the map exactly where we were. And then the siren went, and it turned off. I was like, wow, that's cool. Hashem did that, because I was like, Hashem, what's going on? Because the siren's like right outside the hotel. You can hear it, no matter what Alexa says, you can hear it inside in Oklahoma if the siren's outside your hotel. It's like right there. And then Hashem saved me with that. Actually, there was a tornado that went, but I think it went directly between the two buildings. Or no, it hit the factory, didn't it? I think it did hit the factory, which was right next door to the extended stay. So yeah, there was a tornado one year that went through there. It didn't kill anybody or hurt anybody, but I think because it was after hours or something. But I think it ripped the roof off a section of the factory there. I don't remember what the company's called. As to help people that worked there, or they needed money, I gave it to them. Have to pay me back, but if they couldn't, I wasn't going to hold it to them. Right. It's just you can't keep coming asking for money. Give me 100, give me 100, give me 100. Get another job. Right. So they should have an app for when it's imminent. There might be something, I don't know. It has to be really obnoxious. I alarmed my apartment one time with an alarm that was on my phone, and boy, it was loud. I had a spare phone. It's when I was in Santa Fe, and I'd walk in, I'd forget it sometimes and it's set off. It's like a robot voice or something. I do it in here sometimes. I come in here with the siren on. Right. The idea is to identify the high ground and identify what you think is going to, what height the water is going to go to and all that. So again, it may require further. Right. The app could have GPS on it where you are led to a safe zone. Right. Or something like that. That's another one there. So they don't have to think about it. But again, if we get, see, that's the problem. Once they start evacuating past a certain point, they may end up getting swept away because they get stuck in a high point on a road that isn't going to be a high point in a few minutes, and they got water behind them and water in front of them. That's one of the issues. That's why you need to develop the evacuation for each individual the best you can. And then, if feasible, you put in at least like a pavilion, right, where they get some cover from the rain. Now, you got to make sure homeless people aren't squatting there, but if they're squatting there, you know what you're stepping when you try to evacuate. So. Yeah, the Bible actually says everybody's worthy of death. So you can see when they pick on gay people and that they're just totally lost. Well, that's what the Bible was created for, to realize that we're all in the same boat. We're destined to hell, we're destined to death, but there's a way out. And that's God. Well, you're going to die, but, you get on the other side. And you go, oh, God, that was tough, man. I don't ever do that again. So there are some plans, I guess, in LA. I'm not sure, what he was broadcasting, the border patrol chief, but there are some plans for some additional operations. Again, it's mostly gang related, most likely. Right. Well, they're going to clear out MacArthur Park in that area so the kids don't have to be around the gangs. So the water thing, I brought that up. If the court orders you additional water, and maybe you want to do it yourself, I don't know what's going on there. I'm not watching day to day. If I was there, I could tell you what direction the court would probably go with something. If I could see your schedule and what you were doing. Right. Well, you have to use bathrooms. Most cells had those facilities, so you don't have bathrooms, you don't have water. Water is an easy one. Right. So what I think you're doing, based upon the way they sued, is you're giving them bathroom breaks if they ask, but you're not giving, you don't give them water whenever they want water, which, yes and no, within reason. Right. You could give them water bottles. That would work. If you give, like when they go into the cell, each one gets a water bottle. That would work. But they might, make sport of that. Oh, okay, I need another one. Right. Then you have all that refuse. Right. But again, maybe that's the easiest way. Agreed. And then, of course, they can then urinate in there and throw it at you. Because, again, you got to think how these people think. I'm not saying immigrants, but people get detained and are in detention and locked up. If they're criminals, they have that's the kind of mind they have. But yeah, probably water bottles is the easiest way to do it. But again, it does make a mess. That's why I was saying like one container per drink. Right. And then the hose that goes in so they can fill it. Right. And then you don't have all the bottles you got to get out of there. And then they hang on to their container. Right. I guess when they out process, they turn it in. Right. Now there's definitely something coming in on chatter. That's what that is. I don't even think it was, maybe they had another plan, but it was just a show of force to say, you're not going to do that to us. Well, the problem is if you let them fantasize, it's doing them a favor when you don't let them fantasize, because then they don't get shot dead. Right. If you wake them up, then maybe they won't do it. You won't have to charge them. People won't get hurt. Right. Thank you, Larry. I mean, Loomer's like wacko. she's lucky she's got the other crew with her, but she's got to be careful. She'll end up nobody again. She's got some pretty big backers. That's all it is. But I mean, in their head, that all this exists, this big case that has information about all sorts of stuff, and it has some. But the reality is, it's a spy operation that was set up during the Cold War. They wanted a dirty Trump. They wanted a dirty Clinton because they knew they could be presidents. Right. So they would, try the. Putin's already tried to. The Russians have already tried to manipulate Trump and Melania. Right. Right. I agree. The deep state was actually set up by the Russians to screw up government and extort other employees. Right. Same type of thing. I'd get rid of Abrego Garcia if he can come up with a deal and he can't sue you. That's what I'd do. Come up with a deal and get rid of him. If he goes to Canada, he goes to Canada. Who cares? Just get rid of him. He's not here. Right. I agree. That's what I foresee for him. If you set it up, somebody like Canada will take him in. And then you won't have to worry. But he can't come back, or in other words, you can keep the indictment. You don't have to dismiss the indictment. You can still keep it, and then whatever the statute of limitations, for that is, it'll be right. And then after that, if he comes back, he'll just you'll just charge him with illegal reentry. It's not one of those deals where you self-deport and you get to come back. It's kind of just agree to get out of here, and we'll agree to disagree and move along. Right. That way, he gets the part of it that he likes is he gets his family to be with him, right? And he doesn't have to stand trial and have that over his head, right? So, there's no reason to sue at that point. Him and his family will be reunited, right? In some other country, probably Canada or UK or wherever, right? Thanks, Larry. Whatever country takes them. Yeah, maybe Colombia, I don't. But they'll be together and there won't be any real issues. Right. And then you don't have to go through all the BS that you're going through at the court as it is. Right. And have gone through with the court. It's just too much time, too much effort. So he agrees to a self-deportation to a third country that you both agree on, and that the country agrees on. I'm sure Canada would agree to it. UK, 50-50. France probably would agree to it. They hate Trump. They'll agree to it. What's that guy's name, the president? He'd do it just to... Hey, gotcha, Trump. But it's just not worth it. Like, you got these cases going on right now, like the U.S. Attorney Nancy Larson. I was supposed to marry Nancy Larson. They blocked us. So we could take over the world. So again, you up the ante. We're making it more difficult for them, and that's what you're showing them. You're showing them that it is increasing, right? And they have to move the other direction, or it won't be good for them. That's a big case, and it's in Texas, so they probably have no hope. Right. No, it would just go away. I mean, some people would talk doo-doo, and they do that now already. So the best thing to do is just dispose of him. Come to an agreement with his attorneys, get him out of the country. He comes back, he gets arrested. Oh, right. You could actually, but then you would end up adjudicating. Oh no, okay, right. Okay, they're talking about maybe pleading it where he does that, he gets probation and supervised release, and if he comes back, he gets the full amount of time. Right. I don't know if they'll do that, but that's the other one. Well, for him, he'd be out of all the nonsense in another country that's safe. That's the key. right? And for him, it's the bait, not sweet bait, but sweeten it for him and his family, and they'll all be together in that other country. They can start their life, anew. But he's young enough to do that, and right. Well, I'm sure if he does anything criminal in the other country, they'll deport him. So it isn't like he can be a gang member or do any crime without without worry. Right? Unless he becomes like Elion and becomes famous. All right, that's probably about it. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.